Hi guys, we are live for the third inaugural episode of MMA Live at 5 on Thursdays. Every Thursday here on Mike Reviews It All. We're going to be talking about a few topics. Got a few minutes here. Merry Christmas to everybody out there. Everybody that I'm not going to see you before then, so hope you enjoy some good time with your family. Nobody's on yet. We're going to get the lighting. Not too many people on yet. We're going to get the lighting down here. Not too much light. Oops. There we go. I think that's all right. Got the light in the background there, but that's fine. And it's 5, and let's get on. Like I said, Merry Christmas to everyone. Thanks for tuning in to this episode 3 of Mike Reviews It All, MMA Live at 5 on Thursdays. A lot of stuff to talk about today. Just going to go through the subjects real quick. Floyd Mayweather and Dana White going back and forth on Floyd being in the UFC. I'm sure you've seen some of those things in the headlines. Disney buying out Fox Network. They bought out the Fox Network that did not buy out Fox Sports. Fox says they want to concentrate more on sports, though. What does this mean for the UFC? They were hoping to negotiate a deal in 2019, and this merger is likely to take about 12 to 18 months to finalize. So this leaves a lot of things up in the air, but with ESPN adding some things from Fox in this deal, I think it makes sense for ESPN to buy UFC and USC to go ahead and go over to ESPN and become part of the Disney family. We got some news on Mark Hunt, his next opponent, his future, and talks about fighting in Japan and Risen. Shot back to the old Pride days. We're going to talk about the UFC 219 co-main event between Edson Barboza and Khabib Nurmagomedov. And the question that's always on everyone's mind when it comes to Khabib Nurmagomedov is, where is he at on weight? We'll talk a little bit about that. We'll also talk about Risen's pay-per-view, what their numbers, how you can watch in the United States, what time it is, and you know, what the rules are, tournament situation, all those kinds of things. I'm going to get mic'd up, so I forgot. For everybody watching this later, sorry for the pause there. Don't have a lot of people on yet, but it's definitely a lot of exciting things coming out of this episode. Let's talk about this Risen thing real quick. Risen December 29th in the 31st. So to buy the pay-per-view, you're going to have to either go online. The easiest way is to download an app. You can download it on Roku. You can download it on your phone, on your iPad, pretty much anything across iOS and Android. It's going to be $20 for one night of the tournament. Why would you buy one night? You can get both nights for $30. 29th and the 31st, like I said. It's going to be the final 2 rounds of the 155-pound weight division, the bantamweight tournament. 2 rounds, 1 night in between. So a lot of these guys are going to be fighting several times in those 2 nights, just like some old school UFC, but you're also going to have the old Pride rules in there. It's going to, of course, be in the ring. They're going to be able to kick and knee down opponents. There's no more of this question as was their hand down, was their foot down, whatever. No. It's straight back to the old Pride rules. And kick to the body, kick to the head, whatever on the ground. No downward elbows while on the ground, just like in the UFC. a few other things, and I'd heard rumored, but it looked like it was not confirmed, that we were going to see a return in some of the fights going back to 10 minutes in the first round. So I hope we see that. That seems to create a lot more finishes. And I think it adds an interesting dynamic and just separates it from the UFC and other MMA organizations in general. But yeah, Rizin's going to be a big card. Whoever was on there, whoever just came on, I was just talking about Rizin, Japanese promotion coming back from the old owners of Pride, and they're going to have a 2-day tournament. How's it going, Seven? Mark Hunt to Rizin, maybe. I just seen that. I was just talking about that. Mark Hunt said he's going to fight Curtis Blades at UFC 221. Then he wants to get these last 2 fights in the UFC knocked out as quick as possible. And he just said that, I think it was to MMAfighting.com, get those knocked out as soon as possible. And he said that after that, it's bye-bye UFC, 100%. So he's extremely popular in Japan. I love the show of Rizin. I miss Pride. A lot of what I miss about Pride is the show. And, of course, we've seen, fighters in top-notch, physical shape, because a lot of them were, almost all of them were under the assistance of performance-enhancing drugs. But there's something to be said entertaining-wise for that, and if everybody's on board, why not have a league that just does that and doesn't worry about it, and the people that don't want to watch it, they can watch UFC, or you can watch both. You know what it is you're getting into. The fighters that don't want to fight in that league don't fight in that league, and they don't have to worry about it, and they don't have to worry about being a clean fighter getting hurt by someone that is on PEDs. And that's been a big that's been a big worry of the UFC, that they're going to get sued. Especially, a lot of people are bringing it up after the John Jones Daniel Cormier thing. A lot of people were saying, you knew going into this fight that John Jones was dirty, that he was dirty for something, and then he head kick knockout over Daniel Cormier. Mark Hunt talking about, he's got a lawsuit against the UFC right now over the Antonio Bigfoot Silva fight, where Silva won the fight and then tested positive for PEDs. Also, Mark Hunt fought Brock Lesnar, and Brock Lesnar, won the fight, later tested positive for PEDs, and which was a really strange thing, because Brock came back for one fight. Everybody knew it would be tested. It was almost like everybody knew he was going to be on. He was going to be positive. And they're like, well, he's going to be back for one fight, so what is there to lose? Maybe he gets a little fine. I don't know. But, that was crazy, and I think it was all about money. But let's go ahead and get started on the subject here. Talking about Floyd Mayweather. Floyd Mayweather, of course, threw out a tweet less than a week ago now. It said, I could easily go into the UFC and make $1 billion in 3 or 4 fights. Of course, this lit the internet on fire, talking about Floyd Mayweather getting in the cage. As much as a couple days ago, Dana White said he was in negotiations to sign Floyd Mayweather to the UFC. And then Floyd Mayweather comes out today and denies it all in familiar Mayweather fashion, says that he put that tweet out there saying that he could go back and make money anytime he wanted to, but that he wasn't in negotiations with the UFC and that he wasn't fighting anytime soon. Mayweather's played this game for a long time. Mayweather knows how to do it. He puts this little thing out there, this little tease tweet. He's very good at keeping his name out there. The other thing is he's very good at putting little feelers out there to gauge the public interest without risking a lot. So then what he does is he puts the idea in your head, and then he backs away from it, and then he waits everyone else to ask for it. Then he comes to the table and says, well, I don't really want to do this, but if you want me in here, this is how much money it's going to cost me. Shrewd. Whatever you want to say about him, he's one of the best sports negotiators probably in the history, if not the best, in the history of the fight game. Him and McGregor's been taking a page out of his book recently, to the chagrin of Dana White. I wonder if he's regretting ever doing that Mayweather-McGregor fight. The numbers came out for that, by the way. The final numbers came back for that. $100 pay-per-view, over $100 on HD. And you had 4.6 million pay-per-view buys in the United States. And then they've counted 6.3 million pay-per-view buys worldwide at $100 a piece. That's $630 million just from the pay-per-view revenues. So at least in that way, maybe this fight did live up to the hype, and maybe, these guys did earn their paychecks. So who knows if Floyd gets in the cage? Does anybody want to see Floyd in the cage? I for one, I like to see some spectacle, but I'm a little tired of it right now, especially with what's been going on with Conor, vacating belts and all this other crap, or not vacating belts, not defending his belts, and then GSP immediately vacating a belt after he wins it. Can you turn that light on over there, please? That one? Yeah, thanks. Sorry about that. Yeah, GSP immediately vacating his belt after he wins it. Most people say they probably knew he was going to vacate the belt before they even gave him the fight, which has got a lot of people pissed off, but he brings a lot of fans back. And UFC, the year 2017, take away the George St. Pierre fight against Michael Bisping, and then take away the Mayweather-McGregor fight, and the only thing you really got is the John Jones and DC2 fight, which ended in the PED controversy. Other than that, it was a very flat year, kind of a losing year for the UFC in the first year under new ownership, which has been getting a lot of scrutiny recently. But let's talk about Mark Hunt for a while. I'd love to see Mark Hunt in Rizin, especially in that old cage like he was back in the K1 days, like he was in the Pride days. I think his style is better in the ring than in the cage, and being able to knee and kick a down opponent, I don't think that's going to hurt him any. I certainly don't think that's going to hurt him. He said he wants to fight Curtis Blades, of course, get that out of the way, and then he says hopefully get somebody higher ranked. He's currently ranked number 5. Curtis Blades ranked number 9. Then he wants his 2 fights and bye-bye and get out of here. And says he does not plan on retiring right now. So, of course, he's basically saying, I want to go to Japan and fight for Rizin. So, and then moving to the Disney and Fox merger. This is really, really bad timing for the UFC unless they get something ironed out quick. And hopefully they're able to figure something out that works well for both sides. Disney just bought out the Fox network, as a lot of you probably heard. They bought out FX, and it was said that they're not buying the sports and the news part of Fox. That's not completely true. While Fox is going to continue to run Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, Fox sold a lot of the regional coverage, which ESPN really wanted to help its subscriber numbers. That really helps, like here in Washington, I watch Gonzaga basketball. I would like to see Gonzaga basketball. They bought the rights to that. They bought the rights to a lot of these local NCAA basketball games, different things like that. So if you used to watch them on FS channels, you're probably going to be watching it on an ESPN affiliate now. But the UFC is due a contract in 2019. They've been trying to iron out a contract, and they're not even close. Fox has offered them $200 million a year to keep their broadcasting rights, and WME and UFC is asking $450 million a year. I don't know if they're hoping to meet them somewhere in the middle. I really don't see anyone paying them $450 million right now, unless they came out with some kind of deal where they gained exclusive rights to their pay-per-views also, which is not going to happen. And that's just not going to happen. I would love it. I mean, I'd pay $20 a month for a Fight Pass if you put all the pay-per-views on there. I think most fight fans would. That would be awesome. I think UFC Fight Pass right now, even for $10 a month, I think it's a good value if you're a fight fan. I think the service is extremely underrated, and I think that it would definitely be beneficial for them to make some kind of a deal with Disney and ESPN, somebody that seems like they have their shit together a little better than Fox Sports has. Fox Sports, if you haven't been around long enough, they were around in the 90s and they kind of disappeared. And then they came back as Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2. The original Fox Sports was absolutely horrendous. They did try to do some things with the UFC. They actually did, I think, one show. The biggest thing they had going for them was a show called The Best Damn Sports Show, period. But their scheduling was absolutely horrendous. You would look at a TV guide, and whoever was setting up the shows and the programming there, nothing was ever on when they said it was going to be on. And that was a really big problem. They seem to have gotten it down a little bit better this time. But Fox is saying they're going to keep Fox Sports 1, they're going to keep Fox Sports 2, and they're going to keep Fox News. So if the UFC was the UFC on Fox, which they no longer own, that creates a big conundrum. You got all these UFC on Foxes. You have all these standalone cards on FS1, sometimes on FS2, sometimes even on FX, which the FX network also went over to Disney and ESPN's. I think it just makes sense to bring the UFC over. And I think they probably meet somewhere in the middle, somewhere around 325,000 or 325 million a year, excuse me. And they're going to have to do some things for that. They're going to have to, tickle Mickey's ears a little bit to get to that number, I think. But I think they can get there. But there's a lot of other possibilities for the UFC going into this. Disney's wanting to do their own standalone streaming service. A lot of people saying that's a big reason of why they bought Fox Movies, Fox FX, all these things. They're trying to increase their repertoire. The UFC has a really good on-demand service. If they do a good job with that on-demand, that's going to give UFC Fight Pass a lot more traction, a lot more notoriety when you get a name like Disney behind it in their streaming service. Or ESPN. You would have to kind of separate it because you don't want to make it look like you're marketing fighting to children. Probably wouldn't be in their best interest. But that's the game they're in. They're going to be in the cartoon game and possibly the fight game. So it is what it is. They've left Marvel alone to kind of do their thing, from what I hear. Hopefully they would leave the UFC alone to do their thing. They're pretty smart over there, from what I've seen on all accounts. I think they make some pretty solid decisions, in my opinion. But another buyer out there is possibly Amazon. You got Amazon Prime. Video has been working tirelessly to build Amazon Prime. As far as like integrating it into their Amazon Fire Stick to make it look like anything good's on Amazon Prime, to commercials. They've bought NFL games now. They're getting rights to NFL games, so who's to say that they wouldn't jump in and buy the UFC? I think it makes a lot of sense for Amazon. If Amazon comes in and pays $325 million for broadcasting rights to the UFC, maybe they go ahead and meet them at closer to that $450 million. And with Amazon's selling abilities, they strike some deals on merchandising. They do some kind of deal between the UFC, Reebok, and Amazon, and they're able to get a lot more UFC memorabilia and clothing and things back there. Whatever happens, I think this is very likely to turn positive for the UFC. Not for Fox Sports 1, though. I don't know why Fox Sports 1 would not try to keep the UFC. After you think about, if you've watched much Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, probably 60% of their programming is based around the UFC. So that would make it very difficult for them. Rupert Murdoch came out recently, though, and said that they were selling off Fox and FX, of course for a money grab, but he didn't say that. He said they want to concentrate more on news and on sports. He said, "We value our relationships in the Fox Sports family. in Major League Baseball, in the NFL, in the MLB, NCAA. He very noticeably did not mention the UFC. So that led a lot of people to say, maybe he doesn't want anything to do with the UFC anymore. So that would obviously require a huge revamping of their channel and of their programming. And honestly, I think that would leave them in more of a mess than the UFC. Even though it seems like the UFC's in a tough position, I think they're in a good position. They hold a lot of cards here. The timing of this deal doesn't come out good for them because they're supposed to sign that contract in 2019, and the Federal Trade Commission is likely to take about 12 to 18 months to finalize this deal. There's going to be some challenges come from the Justice Department, and there's going to be some red tape and regulations like there always is with these big mergers. A lot of people probably don't realize the big AT&T Time Warner merger. That's not completely done. They're running business as if it's done, but it's not completely legal. It's not over by any stretch of the imagination, and I'm sure that affects some contracts and different things that they do there. But let's move on to a UFC 219 co-main event between Edson Barboza and Khabib Nurmagomedov. I am super excited to see Khabib Nurmagomedov back in the cage. He's the best 155-pounder on the planet, I believe, bar none, if he can make weight. And that's the big issue, is if he can make weight. Edson Barboza, of course, is a violent striker, one of the best strikers at 155, if not the best, though. But Khabib Nurmagomedov was recently at one of these media luncheons, and a reporter asked him and said, where are you at on weight? And Khabib looked at him and said, there are two questions you don't ask fighters and women: their age and how much they weigh. He did finally give away that he was about 8 days ahead of his cut from his last fight. His last fight, of course, put him in the hospital, kidney shutdown. There was rumors that he was eating tiramisu the week of fight cut. I don't know if that was ever, substantiated, but I don't know why someone would make up a rumor for that. Kind of a weird random rumor, but Khabib told MMA Mania, he was interviewed by them a couple days ago. He said, Edson better worry about my hands. Of course, Khabib's known as one of the best grapplers in all of MMA, if not the best pound-for-pound grappler in all of MMA. And Edson Barboza is one of the best strikers, definitely at 155 pounds, one of the most violent strikers out there. And Khabib says, you better worry about my hands. He said he'll use his boxing to corner Edson and keep him guessing about the takedowns. So I don't know if he's given away a little bit of his game plan there, or if he's trying to throw Edson off. I'm not sure why he would say that much, but Edson's on fire right now. This is no gimme for Khabib coming off a year layoff. Of course, he's 24-0, so nobody's been able to beat him yet, but Barboza's coming off a 3-fight winning streak. He dominated Anthony Pettis and Gilbert Melendez, who were two of the top in the division. The winner for this is, they're saying is going to get, most likely will get Tony Ferguson, or an outside shot that they get Conor McGregor, if Conor McGregor does end up coming back and fighting Tony Ferguson. Nobody knows what Conor McGregor is doing right now, and frankly, I'm getting to the point to where I don't know that I really care. I just want him to give these belts back so people can go back to their lives and the divisions can go back to normal. So I think that'd be a great thing. Finally, let's talk about Rizin. Let's talk about this tournament in Japan. I watched the last Grand Prix. It was the first round, I believe, of this Grand Prix. You can actually find it on YouTube, or at least you could have, as of a week ago. I watched it. It was highly entertaining. Not a lot of fighters that I recognize, but very, very high-level stuff. Very high-level stuff. Some awesome submissions on there if you end up watching it. Some awesome female fights. Very, very solid card. I don't think you'll be bored with any fights on there. Of course, Rizin's taken some of the Pride rules. You can kick a down opponent. You can knee a down opponent. And this is going to be a 2-day tournament. This is going to be the final 2 rounds of the Bantamweight Grand Prix are going to be 2 days apart. Second round is going to be on the 29th, and the third and final round will be on the 31st. I'm looking forward to all the ceremony of Pride. They brung on this one. They brung the big trophy out there. They have the same female announcer, that's completely over the top, just like no more than Bruce Buffer, I guess. Well, maybe a little more, but it just brought back a lot of good memories, and I really love the show of Pride. To me, it's a much different thing than the UFC. It's showtime. You got the lights, you got the dances, you got the music, the spectacle, the crowd is different, the environment, the tradition, everything it's just different. You feel like you were in Japan, and if you watch the stream that I watched on YouTube, you actually will be watching it in Japanese, so that enhances to feeling like you're in Japan. The pay-per-view, however, will be in English. If you choose to buy the English version, download the Fight app. It's Fight TV, F-I-T-E. You can get it on Roku. You can get it on Amazon Fire TV. If Amazon hasn't picked a fight with them by then. You can, or you can download it on your iPad, on your computer, or whatever. But just look up FITE TV, or just type in the Ryzen pay-per-view, and it'll come up Fight TV. They're the ones who sell it. It's going to be $20 for 1 day, and then $30 for the 2-day tournament. So I don't know why you'd get 1 day unless you just want to watch the finals. But notable fighters in there. Ian McCall is in the second round of the bantamweight tournament. Takanori Gomi is going to be fighting on the second day. Everybody thought his career was over, but they're in Japan, so loaded up on PEDs, maybe he'll be back. You never know. And then you're going to get to see Mirko Cro Cop once again. Mirko Cro Cop, I didn't even know this here till recently, because news of Ryzen has not made it to the United States well at all. Mirko Cro Cop actually came back last year, won the entire Ryzen tournament. This year he's going to come back and fight, looks like, in a standalone fight. Hopefully in one of these fights where the first round is 10 minutes. I like that format. I noticed some of their fights, they're not doing that. They're not doing the first round is 10 minutes. I like 10 minutes in the first round. But just because it's something different. I'm not saying I want the UFC to go to that all the time or other MMA organizations. But it's something different. It's a totally different dynamic to set a pace that you got to go for 10 minutes, and most likely somebody's going to burn out. There's so many more finishes, so many first round finishes when that first round is 10 minutes. It's amazing how much they go up. That's been the case so far since Risen came back, and of course was the case in Pride. And Vanderlei Silva is also talking about being in Risen. He will probably end up in Risen, of course. What else is going on right now? First round of the Bellator heavyweight tournament. Chael Sonnen and Rampage Jackson. Who's going to win that one? I don't know. I think Rampage is probably a little too big for Chael. But, Chael Sonnen's a great wrestler. He always comes back, he always comes in, and Rampage Jackson hates fighting wrestlers. There's no way that Chael's going to stand and fight with him. No way in hell. But fighting at heavyweight, Chael fought at 185. I know Rampage fought at 205, but he cut a lot of weight, and he didn't always look like he's in the best shape. But going from 185, yeah, I think he had one fight at 205 against Stephan Bonnar. Well, no, two. He had a fight, I believe, against Stephan Bonnar and then against Tito Ortiz. In Bellator, and now he's going to fight Rampage in this heavyweight tournament. I think Rampage takes it just because I think he's probably too big. I think I've said before, I think, the winner of that thing is probably Meathead. He probably comes out of that okay, but it's going to be nice. We get to see Fedor fight again. We get to see Frank Mir in this thing. That's going to be incredible. There's a lot going on in fighting besides just UFC right now. I'm excited about a lot of UFC stuff. Like I said, the Edson Barboza, the Khabib Nurmagomedov fight. and other things, but I'm super excited about the Risen tournament. I'm super excited about the Bellator heavyweight tournament. Even if these guys are older, so are people in Risen. A good fight's a good fight. The Risen thing, I'm going to warn you right now, if you look into the pay-per-view, the first day on the 29th, it's on their time. It's their fight, it's on their time. So you're going to have to watch it at 10 at night, the first night. The second night doesn't get any easier because on the 31st, if you want to watch it, it's going to start at 2 a.m. And it looks like each one will probably run about 3 hours. Why isn't Lashley in the tournament dumb? Oh, I don't know. That's a good question why Bobby Lashley isn't in the tournament, but I don't think he'd win. But yeah, that's strange. I do find that really strange that he's not going to be in it, but you know, he's not there. I'm not a big Bobby Lashley fan. I think he'd probably be out in the first round, but yeah, I think they kind of like to protect him. It's a weird relationship with him. I've never understood why Bobby Lashley's even there, except for he looks muscular and he talks weird. Gets intense. He's, you know, like a muscular Chael Sonnen that can't fight. So that's a lot of the news in MMA today. I'm going to talk a little bit of non-MMA. Anybody who is on Apple, I know this doesn't have to do a lot with UFC and MMA, but it has a lot to do with how we watch it. And that is Apple came out today. A lot of people have speculated about this for years. Apple came out today and admitted that they have been throttling the speed on older phones. This is huge. Even some of the biggest Apple fans are outraged. A lot of people have been speculating that have been doing it for years. That Apple's been mum on the situation. They came out and said, yes, we're throttling the speed on older phones. But it's not so you'll go and buy a newer phone. We're throttling the speeds to save your batteries on your old phones because we don't want to leave owners of old phones in the dark and when a battery dies. So I thought that was a lame excuse. Excuse me, I'm losing my voice. It's actually coming back this week. I wanted to make sure I'm here every week, but I'm actually battling bronchitis this week, so just be patient with my voice. Merry Christmas to everybody. I won't see you again, till the next week, and Christmas will be over. So I hope you guys have a good time with your families, and eat too much. I hope you get some nice presents for Christmas. A nice stocking stuffer I hope I get is that Risen pay-per-view. That would be good for me. The Risen pay-per-view there in Japan, even if the second day is at 2 in the morning. That's going to be incredible. I'd love to do a live stream on that. I don't know how many people would tune in at that time to watch a live stream in Japan of the Risen tournament, but if I get enough people that say they want to watch it, I'll do it. I'll broadcast from 2 to 5 in the morning on the 31st, and we'll watch that fight together. Of course, Crow Cop's going to be back in there. Takanori Gomi's going to be back there in Japan. So I'll be here. Thanks, Seven. We get a few people on board. That's a lot of dedication. That's some dedication to MMA to be watching at that time. So, hey, bud. Hey, Zoltan. How's it going? Merry Christmas, man. Won't see you before Christmas. So, yeah, Merry Christmas. I noticed a few people just coming on here. I'm going to do some recaps and see what... I'd like to see what Zoltan says. Thanks, Zoltan. Merry Christmas, too. He says, thank you. I want to do a recap. I think probably the most interesting thing going on this week is Disney just buying out the Fox network, and you got the UFC on Fox. That's going to screw up... That could screw up potentially a lot of things. And nice channel. Thank you, Waldo. I appreciate it. It's still in its first year in its infancy, but I'm working on it. I definitely appreciate it. I appreciate all the subscribers and all you guys on there. I did not think I would have this many subscribers by this time. Eventually, this is what I want to do for a living because my body's falling apart. So I really appreciate all the support, But going forward, Disney buying out they bought out the Fox network, if you didn't know. They bought out FX. Yeah, Disney buying Fox, is that going to affect Fox News and Fox Sports? So here's the thing, Zoltan. They came out at first, Rupert Murdoch said that it would not include Fox Sports and Fox News, and they were going to focus more on just the news and sports part of the business, as well as a huge money grab for Rupert Murdoch, of course. When he was addressing the Fox Sports family, he said he looks forward to working with the NFL, the NBA, Major League Baseball, NCAA. He named everybody in the family but the UFC. There's big talks that the UFC could go a lot of places. They've been in contract negotiations with Fox. Fox has offered them $200 million a year to keep their options. Fox is the last decent MSM. I hope Tucker and Hannity can keep speaking truth. They definitely get excited. I'm glad you enjoy it. And I hope they fire Tyrone Woodley. Oh my God. That's brutal. That is some brutal honesty there, my friend. Fire, yeah. But UFC could actually end up a lot of places. This merger is going to take about 12 to 18 months, most likely, to go through, and their contract is up in 2019. So if they were to stay on UFC on Fox, that would split their networking. They would have part of their networking on Disney and part of it on Fox Sports 1. Problem with Fox Sports 1 not keeping them on is Fox Sports 1 and Fox Sports 2, UFC is about 60% of their programming right now. So they would have to have a major facelift in the way that they do programming. And UFC's basically ran Fox Sports 1 since Fox Sports 1 came in and saved them. But there's a lot of players in this. I think it would be a smart buy for ESPN to buy them because Disney's going to launch their own streaming service. They've been talking about it. It's part of the reason that they're buying Fox. If they were to get a hold of UFC Fight Pass, it's going to give it a lot more notoriety. 60% of FS1. Wow. Yeah, if you look on FS1, it's UFC reruns, it's UFC Insider, it's reruns of UFC Insider, it's inside this fight, that fight, lot of UFC. It's crazy. It's a lot of UFC. It would hurt Fox Sports 1 a lot. But I think it makes a lot of sense for them to go to ESPN. It makes a lot of sense on both sides, I think. And they're going to get a lot closer, maybe $325 million, a lot closer to what they're asking, I think, with ESPN, because I think that's going to immediately help ESPN as they're losing subscribers. It's going to give UFC that much more notoriety. ESPN's a bigger brand. You get that streaming service on there. If they do it right, where it's not freezing, like UFC Fight Pass, I don't have too many problems with it freezing on it. They have a lot of original programming that's actually really good if you have time to watch it. And it would get a lot more attention, obviously, over there with ESPN and ABC than it would just on its own on a site, UFC.tv, that very few people know about. If they want the whole $450 million, I think they would have to increase the price on Fight Pass and give it to them and throw all the pay-per-views in there. I don't think that's going to happen. I've been pushing for a long time, though. I think UFC should do this. I think they should come outright and say they're going to have 2 super events each year. 2 pay-per-views. I don't know what the price point would be. 2 pay-per-views that would not be on Fight Pass. Everything else, all the pay-per-views, if you have Fight Pass, you get the pay-per-views. And then Fight Pass would be $20 a month. And I would pay that. I'd pay $240 a year to get all the programming and all the pay-per-views. I think that would be a great idea. I think that would put them on par with a lot of other sports streaming networks. But Amazon could easily be in this. Amazon has recently bought some rights to some NFL games. They're trying to compete, of course, with Netflix, which has no sports so far. And they're trying to compete with Hulu and all these other things. Amazon could probably move closer to that $450 million a year number. Also, because they could make some deals with merchandises, they could make some three-way deals with the UFC, Reebok, and Amazon to give, give discounts to Prime members. You could get discounts on pay-per-view for being an Amazon Prime member. I almost think Amazon should buy the UFC. I mean, they have enough money. But, buying the streaming rights to them and doing business with them, I think makes a lot of sense. I just posted on my Facebook for people to watch, subscribe, like, and bell. Thank you very much, Zolden. I appreciate you so much, man. Yeah, I hope a lot more people watch this. And, yeah, I just really appreciate it. Anything you guys want to talk about, feel free to interrupt me anytime. And we can switch gears. But that Fox one, I think that's the biggest thing of the week. And like I said, I think ESPN and Amazon are the two natural choices. Turner Broadcasting Network, TNT, a couple other networks have shown interest in the UFC. I don't see TNT throwing out $450 million. Francis, who wins? I think Francis is too much. Walt says he thinks Francis is too much for Stipe Miocic. That's going to be a great fight. It's going to be hard to call. It's hard to count Francis out. Definitely, he's got that superb power. He's finished every single fight he's been in. Stipe Miocic also has incredible power. Stipe Miocic has incredible footwork. I think I would have to favor Stipe. I think he's probably going to end up having better cardio. It's hard to say. I think I would end up having to favor Stipe, but we just haven't seen as much from Francis Ngannou. We haven't seen Anthony Joshua versus winner of Stipe Ngannou. that would be interesting. What's up, Fred? Thanks for tuning in, man. Thanks for tuning in. We were just talking about, hey, I want to know what you think about this, Fred, with Disney buying up most of Fox. UFC coverage is going to be split now. You have the UFC on Fox. You had Fox Sports 1, what's going to be staying in the house with the Fox conglomerate. And you could potentially have competing programming. That merger is going to take about 12 to 18 months to complete. They are way off on numbers. And it's due in 2019. Fox was offering $200 million. The UFC is asking $450 million a year. I think this could easily go to ESPN. I think it could be very smart for both sides. But it could also go to Amazon. And Amazon has been getting into the streaming service, into the streaming business a lot recently. They just bought some NFL games. For them to get UFC Fight Pass on Amazon Prime TV and give Prime discounts for UFC pay-per-views, UFC merch, UFC programming. That would be completely huge. And the big thing about Amazon that a lot of these other companies aren't going to do, and you can't forget about, is Amazon doesn't care about losing money. Amazon lost money forever before they became profitable. So they're not shy about funneling a bunch of money into something and trying this. And that could be really good for the fans for a while. I mean, I could see them throwing out there some really cheap pay-per-views, honestly, just to get the people off of pirating. I could see them throwing out there some $20 pay-per-views, like back in the old day. Then you have no excuse anymore. $20 pay-per-view, and you invite 10 friends over. That would be awesome. I mean, how many pay-per-views do we not get now, though, because we can't afford to drop $60 a month, or the card's just not solid enough to pay $60. But we might watch the one on Fox, the one on FS1. I think Prime makes a lot of sense. I think ESPN makes a lot of sense. Mark Hunt, Fred recently said he wants to leave the UFC. He's going to be fighting Curtis Blades next. Zoltan, same with Google, Verizon, Comcast, etc. Model was lose money first for years. Oops. Message deleted. But oh, I'm sorry about that. 7. I accidentally deleted some messages. I'm sorry, guys. I hit the wrong button. But yeah, you're right, Zoltan. A lot of those guys did lose a lot of money for a long time. Nobody did it as good as Amazon did. But yeah, they definitely did. Fred the Shed, to have UFC on Amazon Prime would be great for both them and the customers. I definitely agree. That's, out of everywhere for them to go, that would be my number one spot. I'm already an Amazon Prime member. It's $99 a month. I get a lot of things shipped to me from Amazon. I listen to the Amazon Music. I watch a few things on Amazon Prime TV. But you got Amazon Books. I mean, you could have you get the UFC in there, add Fight Pass or something in there, and you got your media for the year. You don't have to spend anything anymore. $99 a year. I mean, that would be incredible. I would love to see it, and I hope they spend the money on the best infrastructure for their streaming, so we don't get any freezing, like on DirecTV Now. DirecTV Now has done a horrible job. I've done a couple streams with DirecTV Now, and I actually fell about a minute behind you guys when you guys were watching, so I'm not going to do that anymore. I'm going to look to either Hulu's service or YouTube's new service for now. I don't think Amazon has the service in my area, but as a cable service, the DirecTV Now is just not reliable enough. I was giving it some time, but it freezes and glitches way too much. But what do you guys think about Mark Hunt saying he's going to leave the UFC after his contract's up, but he's not done with fighting? I'm sure he's going to Risen. I'm almost sure that's got to be what he's talking about. Fighting in Japan again, and you're basically going to have Pride all over again. Even after the UFC had bought him out, it's new owners now. You got Takanori Gomi on there fighting on this next card. Everybody that's on here now, who would watch a Risen streaming? I want to stream Risen if enough people are interested. It's a 2-day tournament on the 29th and the 31st. I thought Hunt said he will stay with the UFC. What did I miss? I don't know. He just told MMA Media. I have it in my notes here. So you can look up the source of the interview here. I think it's about time for Mark on Amazon Prime is the bee's knees. The Grand Tour is great, says Fred. Run a gym or something, bro. Well, it said that would be fun. I would love to run a gym sometime. It's about, yeah. Yeah, let me go back to my notes. It's like MMAfighting.com. Yeah, an interview 2 days ago. No, also on Submission Radio. Submission Radio, he said he would get the number 9 out of the way, 2 more fights, and then bye-bye. And he said he's not done fighting. So that was... He will be fighting February 11th in Australia. But yeah, that was just 2 days ago. I thought he was staying in the UFC too, but it sounds like he's changing gears. I thought that he'd be happy about the UFC's new drug testing rule, and the thing that doesn't make sense is you go over to Risen and you know those guys are going to be jacked. Same, Zoltan says. Yeah, you remember Pride, Zoltan. I mean, I'm looking forward to Risen because you're going to see all those new rules. All those old rules. It's about time Hunt quit. He's took way too much damage, but best of luck to the guy. For sure, Fred. I've always loved Mark, and those guys that, I mean, you really become fans of, you don't want to see him get hit after a while anymore. Especially Roy Nelson's another one. That guy's always blocked with his chin. I mean, and he's got a great chin, but you can't block with your face forever. That's not a good game plan. So, of course, he's in that heavyweight tournament. Just as a fan favorite thing, if I could say there's anybody that I want to win that tournament, it would be Roy Nelson. I'm a big Roy Nelson fan. Well, of course, you got Fedor there too, and that's tough. but I think I would rather see Roy Nelson win it, honestly. Fedor had so much success. Fedor may end up back over in Rizin, but the pay-per-view coming up, the Rizin guys, it's going to be on Fight TV. You have to download an app. You can do it on Roku, Amazon Fire TV, on your computer, on an iPhone, and your phone, whatever. It's going to be $20 for one day of the tournament, $30 for both days, the 29th and the 31st. It's the final 2 rounds of the Bantamweight Grand Prix. There also is going to be a special fight. Mirko Krokop's going to fight. Takanori Gomi's going to fight. Ian McCall's in the tournament. If you want to watch the first round of the Grand Prix, I found it on YouTube a couple weeks ago. If you just type in Rizin, R-I-Z-I-N, Grand Prix tournament, I'm pretty sure it's still on there. It's in Japanese. Polynesians are resistant to KOs over thousands of years, clubbing each other. It's been studied. Look at Hunt Holloway and such chaps, Sultan says. I can't argue that much. Some guys just have thicker skulls. Julio Cesar Chavez, back in the day, the boxer, that guy, they actually did some x-rays on him, and they said that his skull was literally twice as thick. Sultan truth. Yeah, exactly. Julio Cesar Chavez's skull was twice as thick as an average skull. That was absolutely nuts. And that guy was one of the absolute greats. And it's sad that he's kind of been forgotten so quickly. But that's the thing with fighters. That's why I don't blame a lot of these guys for getting as much money as they can while they can. Because you look at guys and they're so quickly forgotten. Tank Abbott. How many people know who Tank Abbott is? He was big just 15 years ago. Now you go on Twitter and he's got 750 followers. I mean, they gain weight and have cardio problems, though. Yes, they do, Zoltan, yeah. But, man, it would be nice to have that thick of a skull. Hey, David.
Right.
Hey, young David. Can you grab me a beer out of the fridge, please?
Huh?
Can you grab me a beer out of the fridge, please?
Yeah.
Getting a dry throat. Thank you. My assistant, young David's back, but I actually brought notes this time, so I haven't needed him. Fred the Shed. Tank Abbott versus John Matua. God, that's one of my favorite fights. The Rock said he would have done UFC if younger. So did Joe Rogan. Yeah, a lot of people probably would have. God, that brings up a good point, though. Anybody who has not seen Tank Abbott versus John Matua, when this is over, write that down and go watch that fucking fight. That fight and the ending and the expression on Tank Abbott's face is fucking classic. That's one of the fights that made me a huge MMA fan. Tank Abbott, that was the first big guy that I followed. Him and, of course, Royce Gracie. But, you know, Tank was big. Tank was my favorite fighter for quite a while. And then, like I said, you know, on... Fred says, The Rock, I love the guy, but there is no way he's not on the juice. Oh, the dude is huge. Jesus Christ, he must have gained 100 pounds in muscle for that Hercules movie, which was one of the biggest disappointments in motion picture in history, in my opinion. Abbott versus Nelson would have been a good senior charity match. Yeah, well, I think Roy Nelson will beat him now. Roy Nelson's only like 38 years old, even though he's looked like he's 50 for about 15 years. Yeah, Roy Nelson's my age. True, yeah. Hopefully I don't look like I'm 50, but some people probably think I do. They say, I don't know if you start regrowing some of those brain cells. 35. Well, thank you, Zoltan. I appreciate it. I'm 39, so you were close. We'll go with 35. That sounds better. I did end up seeing that, RDA beat Robbie Lawler, even though I wasn't able to stream that with you guys. I had to work for that, unfortunate. But, RDA is getting right in there for a shot. So that'll be interesting to see, was that a fluke that he lost, to Eddie Alvarez? I don't know. They say, you can't use math in the fight game because one fighter can beat another fighter doesn't mean he can beat a fighter that lost to that fighter. And I think that's the case in this one. Eddie Alvarez beat RDA, but you put Conor McGregor against RDA. Does Conor McGregor beat him? I don't think so. I think RDA knocks out Conor McGregor, but from what I've heard about Conor lately, I don't know if he's beaten a lot of guys though. I think Robbie had an injury early in the fight. I seen that. Yeah, it definitely looked like he did. I like both those guys. I mean, excuse me. I wanted to see both those guys do well. So that was hard. I didn't want to see either one of them lose. That's the thing with the UFC. It's like, it's not like football where you have a team. You don't, people ask you, oh, who's your favorite fighter? And sometimes I don't know who my favorite fighter is fighting at the time. But I know I like watching fighting, and there's a lot of guys that I know I like watching them fight. And I'm fans of them. And, I could be watching, on the UFC, I could be watching a card with 11 fights, and I'm big fans of 15 of the fighters on there, and for different reasons. Jiu-jitsu masters, striking masters, guys that just have awesome leg kicks. Fred says, I really want to see Darren Till versus Wonder Boy. That would be a good fight. Did you guys see this? I didn't want to look at it because I didn't want it spoiled yet, so don't look at it if you see this. But did you see this post about Colby Covington? Me too, says Zoltan. Yeah, I'd love to see that. It said that Colby Covington gave away the ending to the new Star Wars. He gave a spoiler to the new Star Wars, and now he's getting death threats. I didn't want to click on it. I have Till on that, more aggro. Till's definitely the more entertaining fighter. I like Wonder Boy, but he's not always in the most entertaining fights. Kind of like Woodley. Then you put them together, and unfortunately, it's a snooze fest. But yeah, Colby Covington, go away. I don't know if anybody read more about that, or if you guys have seen the Star Wars yet. I would have been out to see it. I've been working a lot. Like I said, I've been sick. I've been down with bronchitis, so that's why my voice is kind of scratchy. I'm about over it. But if he did spoil Star Wars for people, what a fucking idiot. I'm not a Colby Covington fan anyways. I think he just started talking shit to get attention, and that's the worst kind of shit talker. I auditioned for Anakin in Star Wars. Glad it did. It wasn't a flop, but fit the part. Zoltan, did you just say you auditioned for Anakin in Star Wars? Were you being serious? That'd be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome because was living St. Louis Ranch, was 30 minutes north. Send us the tapes, says Fred. That would be awesome. So I can say somebody that auditioned at least for Anakin Skywalker is a fan of my channel. So even more props to Zoltan. It's awesome to see a lot of the same guys on here every time. Fred and Zoltan, thank you. Seven was on here. Cap from Capitol Hills, he's on here a lot. Capitol Heights, excuse me. But, it's nice to see a lot of the same people. Thank you, Walt, for tuning in. I'm going to be wrapping this up pretty soon. It's my son's 17th birthday, which makes me feel old, but it's young David's 17th birthday. Young David! Young David! I gotta get his attention. David! Come down here. Happy B-Day, David. Okay, you guys gotta all embarrass David. It's his 17th birthday, and he's gonna come down here. So, we're gonna get him on here, and you guys embarrass him. Say something that would embarrass a 17-year-old. Come on down here, birthday boy. Come on the set. Don't know. Come on the set. Fred says Coleman Covington is a wanker who talks way too much shit. And happy birthday, David. I'm glad how you put that together, Fred. Thank you. I hate Colby Covington. Happy birthday, son. This is my son, 17th birthday.
Yep.
I had a cowlick just like that at 17. Zoltan was just telling me that he auditioned for Anakin on the first episode of Star Wars. Episode 1.
Yeah.
David's a pretty big Star Wars fan. We've been waiting to go see the new movie, but we've been busy and I've been sick, and we'll get in there soon. For sure, but this guy here, my son, is like one of my heroes. I just watched it. It was awesome. Thank you, Zoltan. I've heard some mixed reviews. He's going to get embarrassed now. He's like, don't do that. Let's talk about young David a little bit, though. Young David was a miracle kid. He was in utero. We had, before he was born, we had a lot of x-rays. We could see in his stomach that his bladder was 4 times bigger than it should have been. Through 17 years, David's endured probably over 20 surgeries. Spent, probably more than that. Spent, what would you say, 5 Christmases in the hospital. It was our very first Christmas we spent. A lot of Christmases in the hospital. Probably 6 months in Children's Hospital. If any of you ever get a chance to donate to Children's Hospital, some very good people over there. My son literally would not be alive if not for them. And there's some very great people. I'm very appreciative. I'm very appreciative for my brave, smart son. But he went through a lot of stuff. David, you're a champ. Keep up the hard work, says Zoltan. Yeah, he's trying to be a game designer. He's not going to be an MMA commentator, but happy BD 17th. I went for the Yoda part, but the dude wanted to paint my dick green, and I ain't gay, so fuck that shit, says Fred. Never leave us, Fred. We will track you down and paint you green. All right, guys, we're going to go. I'm going to go and enjoy David's 17th birthday. Happy Christmas to everybody that I won't see here soon. And please, anybody that's not subscribed, please give me a thumbs up before I get off of here. And anybody that's not subscribed, or any of your friends that aren't subscribed, please give them a noogie until they subscribe, and we'll keep growing this thing. Thanks for tuning in, guys, and hope to see you soon.